Welcome to No Stages, Episode 1, 2023 RAAM Preview. We got a great race across America lining up with former champion Leah Goldstein, who is back to defend her title. Leah, it's great to chat with you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Well, Leah, you've been working out really hard. I mean, for once, it's like California's had snow and cold weather and all this stuff. I know you went down to Borrego Springs to escape the British Columbia weather, and instead you got pummeled with snow and
Yeah, I
cold
brought
rain.
Canada with me. I brought the whole country with me, man. And they wanted me out of there so fast. As soon as I left, the sun came out, right? So it was, yeah, it wasn't as what we were expecting. But you know what? I'll take 20 Celsius over what was happening in Vernon. So for me, it's fine. But you don't expect it's not normally that hot anyways that time of year in Borrego, right? But it was comfortable. It was good.
Now, you had sworn you were never going to do this again, and here you are back again, and one of the favorites. You excited about this year?
Yeah, I mean, it's always scary. Like RAM is so unpredictable. Like you can be, and everything can be right in training, and you think you got it, and you're in the best shape of your life, and then, the race is 3,000 miles, so anything can happen, right? But the best you can do is just hope for the best and be prepared for the worst.
Are you still working with John Howard as your coach?
I'm not working, I'm consulting with him. I'm consulting with a couple of people, right?
Okay.
I mean, this is now since coming back into race, this is my third go now. So I think I've kind of dialed in what I needed to work on. I've got a brand new crew though, too. Just a couple of people have returned, but they've been having their meetings like once a week, since like December. So yeah, they're pretty on it. So I mean, as I said, we're coming in prepared as anybody else. We're on track and my training has been good, minus the weather, of course, right? But I think the cold weather just makes you tougher.
I'm not sure you actually need to get tougher though, Leah. Of all the things and all the people that don't need to get tougher, it's probably you. With your, going into your third RAM, I mean, what are you changing anything over past years? Focusing anything on different, getting ready for this one?
Right. Well, actually, this is the first time this is my fourth one in
Oh,
total, but I
fourth
mean,
RAM.
coming back,
Sorry.
I took that in 2011, I took like 8 years off, right? And then I came back at the nice young age of 50, right?
Yeah, and
I
mixed two
think,
rosin.
right, exactly. I think every time you do RAM, you just learn something new, right? Like the last one, of course, was the heat was for me, that heat wave is so we're prepared for the worst. The 2019, it was the rain, it was consecutive rain, like that was unpredicted, we didn't had no idea when I first did RAM. I had one day of rain, right? So we're prepared for that. So I don't know what else could go wrong at the Shermer's Neck. We've got that under control, but like I said, anything can happen, right? You can have heat with rain and then who knows, a tornado. Just got to be prepared for it. So we are, like I said, it's race across America and you never know, right? Anything can happen at any time.
So, what you had really been working on last time was getting faster on the flats,
Correct.
and you really wanted to increase your speed there. Um, I mean, we all know you're a fantastic climber. Is there any specific thing that you're focusing on this year, or just all around fitness?
I think it's to be a little bit more consistent. I have a tendency to go a little bit too hard, too early, too fast.
No.
Yeah, I do. And I just pay for it at the end. You know what I mean? So I just have to that kind of to chillax a little bit in the beginning, and just try to stronger race at the end. That's kind of what my goal is. And then kind of to get the sleep dialed in as well, right? Sometimes I get overly excited. I want to cut my sleep too early in the race, like to 90 minutes, thinking you can survive that, right? So we're going to just try to be a little bit more consistent with my sleep and then the way I'm riding, and then hopefully that'll play out at the end. So at the end of the race, at the last quarter, hopefully I'll have a little bit more oomph, right, if needed. And of course, I know that there's a theory that you want to go as hard as you can in the beginning, but I think for me that kind of backfire in my past RAMs.
Which sounds like something that would be really difficult for you to make that change because you are so competitive. How are you working to make yourself hold back a little bit at the start?
Yeah, I'm all this right now. That's the start. I'm gonna take off like a bat out of hell. So just ignore what I'm saying. Well, we'll see. Like I said, I have to. That's part of the crew too, is to bring reason to the rider, right? And so I'm working really closely with my crew chief right now, and everybody else on the crew is just kind of to keep me a little bit more on track, right? Like I said, because you get too tired at the end of the race, and you're always having an excuse kind of to come off the bike, and you're kind of slagging, taking your time to get back on the bike. So I think there's just, like I said, to be a little bit more consistency from the beginning right to the end, and having a little bit more, gas or energy left at the very last quarter. And as you know, the Appalachians for me personally, minus Kansas, is like the hardest part, just with those relentless climbing and the steep climbing too.
Well, you've got some really great female competition this year with Heather Poskovich, very
Yeah,
fast. Isa Pulver,
yeah.
former winner. Um, I would think it would be so hard to just rein yourself in. And I mean, any guy who's out there too, because I mean, you are an overall champion.
Right. Yeah. I mean, like I said, it's easier said than done, but I mean, just because it's such a long race. I mean, if you remember in 2019, Daniela was like way back there. Like she was, we weren't even looking at her, right? And then Issa was way up the road. I thought, man, this woman, she's like 400 kilometers up the road. And then look what happens. I kind of stay in the middle. Danielle changes with Issa. Issa goes back there. You know what I'm saying? So, and then the fight kind of between me and Daniela at the end, right? Where there was like a 90-minute difference, right? And I think too is just to kind of keep it cool in the first half of that race, and then start to race kind of in Kansas. Is, of course, I mean, we don't want the competitors to be too far up the road where they're unreachable, right? I mean, you have to play it by ear that way. But let's just say if it's a consistent 50 or 70K, and up into Kansas, fine, let's keep it that way if we're on schedule, and then I'll start to pump it up a bit. So I think that kind of strategy might work a little bit better. We'll see. You never know, right? Like I said, I might lose all control in the beginning and just go out like a crazy woman, right? So who knows?
Is there any part of the course that you, oh, let's say, respect more than the others?
I mean, it's the Appalachians, to be honest with
It
you.
really
Like, it's
is.
just because you're at the last quarter of the race, you've used everything, you're sleep deprived, you're tired, and you're just freaking climbing. And it's like I said, it's just relentless. You're climbing for like 20 hours that one day, kind of coming into, the Appalachians. And so it's the most mentally challenging part for me anyways, right? It's just to get through them, and because at that point you just want to get to the finish line, and then you just got a boatload of climbs to go, right? So I think mentally that's the toughest challenge,
I
especially
think
when
we
you're
want
still racing too, right? When you're racing with somebody who's close to you, I mean, that's gonna make or break you at that point.
I think it's a really overlooked part of the course because everyone looks at the Western, Rockies and oh, big climbs, but they're relatively early on. And
Exactly.
they look at the Appalachians, go, well, they aren't that big, but they just
Oh,
never stop.
well, it's also the grades, right? Like you're hitting
They're
grades
also
like,
steep.
I know, like 11, 12%. Like the Rocky Mountains, or they're like in the West Coast, like we're kind of a gradual climb. It's pretty
Yep.
well consistent. You can kind of get into a rhythm. But with the Appalachians, it's like you're going up 11% down, 12% up, 15% down, and then up 8%. So it's just relentless. You just can't get into a rhythm. And that's where it kind of mentally, you start to crack at that point, right? And everything hurts now, your neck, your butt, your hands, your feet are numb, you're tired, you're cranky, and then you got more hills to climb. So it's a lot of fun.
Are you making any changes in gearing for the Appalachians?
Yeah, we're going a little bit. I mean, definitely sure. I mean, I use with my gear combination just for my climbing bike, we're using like a 34. I was using a 30, and I think just having those extra two gears would be nice. And of course, swapping to the 12 speed from the 11 speed. Just little things like that, I think. Because I remember when I do RAAM, I always try to take mental notes. And as soon as I'm finished the race, I write down everything that I remember during the race, right? So I have like pages of things, about my shoes, my clothing, my gearing, my seat, my saddle, all that kind of stuff, right? So I go back on my notes. So the one biggest thing I think was just having that one extra gear for the climbs at the end, for sure.
I mean, back in '04, I actually traded out my road derailleur for a mountain. I put
Yeah.
an XT on so I could run a mountain bike rear
Yep.
cassette.
Totally.
which
Absolutely. Just
was
so you have
great.
it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
It makes a huge difference just having that spin in the higher cadence, so yeah, I think that'll be a huge difference for me too and when we talk about gear and gears and the transmission part of the bike for sure.
Now, sleep really hit you last time. Are you going to be sleeping any more at the beginning of the race this year?
I think it's going to be the same standard. I mean, you always go through the first night because you're super excited and whatever. I think I want to try and push a little bit further into the second night. And then a consistent, we'll say 3 hours, considering that I'm not off the bike too much during, like on the time that I'm on the bike, I want to be more on the bike, if that makes sense. Because we have a timer. As soon as I'm off that bike and my wheels aren't turning, somebody in my crew has that timer going, and we want it to be under 3 minutes, right? So it's kind of like an Indy car, right? When you have everybody doing something, and they call it out to me too. So I think too, that's going to be the biggest thing too. Not so much in the beginning. That's easy, like I said, in the beginning of the race, but come Kansas and forwards, right, is you want to keep that speed and that consistency when you get off the bike and back on the bike, the same that you were in the first 5 days of the race. That makes sense.
Yeah,
So that 3 minutes is not 15 minutes now, right?
people joke about that, but those minutes add up
Oh my God.
over the
Yeah.
course of the race. And when you look
Yeah.
back at your performance and
Absolutely.
your times and cutoffs and stuff, you're like, wow, I could have saved
I know.
minutes.
All right. Well, and also that, like you think if you do 4 15-minute stops, you think, oh, you kind of, that's an hour. You could be sleeping in that hour. You're gonna just, so we're going to be, again, more vigilant with keeping me on the bike as much as possible. Like, you can pretty well do everything on the bike, so, except when we do a bike change or something. But even that, it's really quick when we kind of have it dialed in. We're going to have a practice race on the 19th of May. So my whole crew is coming down to Canada, to where I am in Vernon, and we'll do about a 1,500-kilometer trial run to make sure we're all dialed in.
Oh, that's nice. We're doing a 400-mile ride this weekend.
Oh, awesome. Great.
So, what were you looking for with new crew members? That's got to be kind of tough because you had some really loyal folks that were on your crew.
I did, yeah. I mean, there's a couple that are still coming back. I think it's just they will have to have the motivation, and they have to understand that it's not a vacation, right? That's the thing. I think I had problems in the past of people, oh yeah, it's going to be really fun going across the country, sightseeing and pictures and this and that. It's tough, and that it's going to be uncomfortable. They're going to be tired. They're going to be hungry. They're going to be cranky, and you have to have the right chemistry. I'm going to say when you train for RAAM, the training is easy. That's the easy part. It's getting a crew and the combination and the chemistry so that gels good, right? Because the crew is you're responsible for the rider, and they're responsible for your victory. What your result is the result of your crew getting you there. So I mean that has to be in quotations as fit as the rider. So I think again is learning from the past, writing down my notes, and also right away, like even in the beginning, we had some crew members that didn't work out. We just explained to them, because you can tell when you're all in a Zoom meeting who's participating, what their motivation is, like if they're coming to the meetings, and to get as much knowledge as possible by watching other videos or other documentaries on Race Across America, and the interest. But so far, like I said, everybody seems super motivated, and they're interested, and they're wanting to win, and they're also competitors themselves, right? They're interested in not just doing it but winning the race as well. That's the motivation, and of course for any rider as well, but you want your crew on the same page as well, keeping you safe but pushing you as hard as you can.
And you have a massive target on your back now, which I would think you probably love. Is that is that motivating in a good way for you?
Well, I mean, yeah, like I said, you do what you can, right? It's pressure. You know what I mean? It's just how it is, but I work good under pressure.
Any concerns that you have specifically going into this year? I'm noticing your hair is shorter than I've ever
No, I
seen it.
actually
How
have
are
a
you going to do
ponytail.
the? Oh, okay, there we go. I was just wondering how you were going to do the Shermer neck
No,
weave.
I can't cut my hair. I got to do the shirt. No, that apparatus stays. I get the braids in, it's pulled back, and it's right at the start. You see my head all tied up nice and tight, right on day one.
How uncomfortable is that though?
It's freaking uncomfortable, but you get used to it, right? But what's
Yeah,
more uncomfortable, getting Schirmer's neck and not seeing the road, or having a little bit of tightness to your head?
fair enough. Fair enough.
Honestly, it feels uncomfortable the first, yeah, maybe 4 or 5 hours, but then you don't even feel it. But you don't realize how supportive that apparatus that we use is, because once they release it, my head like just collapses, right? And then when I'm done the race and we undo the braids, my hair is out to here, and then I lose half my hair because you think about how much pressure that is for however many
Sure.
days it takes, but
Well,
yeah, if you have
I
a big
took
flock
it
of
out on
hair.
a training ride, and look what happened to me.
Yeah, that will work for you, George.
So, what else do you have planned for this year?
Well, I'm gonna let Race Across America kind of see where it goes, and I plan to do maybe Race Across Oregon, possibly, and another training, another one of the shorter races, and we'll just see. But you never know how kind of the recovery is and how hard it is. So it just depends how RAAM goes, and then you kind of make your decisions after that, right? So you don't want to
Yeah.
bury yourself at the end. When I go into a race, I can't go in at 90% or 80%. I got to go in at 110%. So, and that just depends on my recovery after.
How has your recovery been since like your first RAAM versus your last RAAM? Is your recovery changed at all? Like the speed, how you feel?
Um,
Like does age kind of suck?
yeah, age kind of sucks. I think it does, right? But I think even when I was on the pro circuit, when I rode with the national team, I had a tendency to recover really fast, right?
Right.
So, I think, yeah, age definitely has a factor in it. I'll take an extra day of rest for sure. But but I'll still keep kind of yeah, that's actually a good question. Is I have been taking longer rest periods between the big blocks of training, whereas before I wouldn't, right? But then I would kind of come into a start of a week, whatever, kind of flat, whereas now I'm coming in really fresh. And I'm just fine because I'm really an expert at overtraining. I've been all my life is always more is better, right? It is better to an extent, but the rest is even more important than the training itself, because that's how you're building, you're recovering, So I'm a little bit smarter as I age for sure.
Anything that you would like to add about maybe that you're especially looking forward to in this race?
What I'm looking for, just a safe race. RAAM is my favorite. There's something about it that's spectacular, right? And I love it. It's exciting, from the start right to the end, So it's just like, it's just a thrill and an honor. And I'm happy that great organization. You guys are doing such a great job, and seeing you guys, So yeah, I'm just super excited. I think I'm actually more excited in this round than I have been with any other.
Any advice for first timers this year?
Stay on the damn bike. Just stay on the bike, right? And
I,
another thing too, like even if you are, let's say, past the 12 days, I think it's important just get to the other side. Even if it takes you 15 days or whatever. And I think that's really important because it just makes you tougher and more prepared for, doing it again. Because most people, I think when they do RAAM once, they want to do it again because, you always have a better second RAAM. But I do think is whatever you're doing, just make sure you get to the other side, even if it's not the outcome that you want, just make it across the country.
so it's good to know that advice hasn't really changed since 1985 and Pete Pensayer's pretty much stay on the bike and ride. But
Yeah,
you're right, Lee. I think one of the experiences just to get across the country, even if you're past the cutoff,
absolutely.
so few people have actually done that fast, even at 15, 16, 17 days.
Yeah,
It's such a cool experience to
it
have.
is.
And you're
It
right,
is.
most people do come back. And so it's always good to see you return. And generally, you come back stronger, more knowledgeable,
Yep.
and have better races.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. You're always, so you mentally, you know what to expect, which is a huge bonus, right? But yeah, like I said, is just for one, you want to have fun. Hopefully you've done your homework. And then, if all goes well, just, you just got to push yourself beyond your limits. But like I said, is you get yourself across the country. You get that bike, you stay on that bike and you get across the country.
All right. Well, Leah Goldstein, thank you very much for taking the time to chat with us on No Stages.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor. I'm looking forward to seeing you both, in about 6 weeks.
Yeah,
not too much longer at all.
Sooner than later, that's for sure. And we look forward to possibly chatting after RAAM sometime.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thanks for having me. See you guys. Have a good evening.
You too. Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye.